Hey guys, Seth here with a Shot in the Dark Reviews. Here to do a real quick unboxing of the Lumintop EDC18. A little bit of backstory. I originally purchased about 6-8 months ago this Lumintop EDC05C, which I really loved for a lot of reasons, and there was a big list of prerequisites that went into my EDC requirements. This runs on a 14500, puts out 500 lumens out the front, but it also has this wonderful 5 LED Nisha strip here that gives a great warm neutral tone, and with the back end of it being magnetic, it was great because if something happened, you had to raise the hood on the car. You could set up this light strip, put it at max brightness, put it up magnetically on the hood of your car, and you could see everything. It was a great work light. It was wonderful for EDC. About, I don't know, 3-4 months ago, something started to happen where basically the light failed. It felt like the board that you plug in for the USB charging, that also is the same board that is attached to the switch, may have malfunctioned, come loose, cold solder joint, whatever the case may be. Because this was my EDC, it was used all the time, but it did fail. So with that being said, there were a couple of crazy things that were happening. It would be plugged in and charging, and the front or side light would come on just on its own. It wouldn't charge unless the cable was just right and just the right position. It also, when in use, would just randomly flash, or wouldn't come on at all, wouldn't respond to the button. So basically, it was a fantastic EDC light, and I put it through its paces, but it did fail. So I reached out to Victor at Lumintop, and I have to say the customer service for Lumintop is above top-notch. I messaged him directly, and he immediately responded. He was available through all hours of the day, even though he is on the other side of the world. We went back and forth on what options would work the best, and basically what it boiled down to is that it wasn't going to be possible or economically feasible to get another one of the EDC05s, 05Cs. So instead, we came to a compromise where basically he would give me, in essence, an upgrade as a warranty replacement, which is this EDC18. It's the newer model, as you can obviously tell with the incredibly bold labeling here. This is the cool white version. I'm expecting it to end up being about 55 to 6,000 K. This is, a couple of things that we lose here. And in fact, let's go ahead and open it up. So you open it up, you open up the box, you get the basic manual that you're gonna get. I will say I've unboxed this, I've pulled the battery, I have charged the battery, and I've put it back in. So there is not, this is a true unboxing other than the fact that I charged a dead battery. You get some basic safety precautions saying, hey, use these kinds of batteries, etc. And then it breaks out into a multi-language manual, but basically the only two main keys I want to point out in this is, here's your quick start guide, okay, basic use, basic specs. It's a, obviously, triple Cree XPL High. This is not the Samsung version. This is the Cree XPL High, and it is putting out 2,800 lumens. That's with a 10,000K throw, so about 200 meters. So pause if you want to check that out. Anyways, also on the back is super important here, because this is your UI map. I love the UI. This is the same UI that comes on the BLF GT, that comes on the Actually, I think it's a UI that is very popular, very customizable. You can do a lot with it. It's one of the better UIs on the market. So anyway, pause the video if you want to check out the UI and see exactly what all's going on here. But it can all be done straight from the single button input. Okay, so comes with a basic guide. You get the light. One thing I will say, I love the fact that they include a diffuser. Okay, this is a big deal. A lot of companies don't. Lumintop does often with a lot of their light models, and it's one of those things that if you're camping, if you're hiking, if you're in a community setting where you're just wanting to cast an ambient amount of light, the power fails, and you gotta have enough, basically a lantern to light a large general area without putting a specific beam on it. This little cheap, inexpensive rubber part that I think every single flashlight manufacturer should include with every single light that they make, at least anywhere at this level of light. This is an invaluable tool to have, and should never be an added cost accessory. Because when you put the diffuser on, and we'll see this when we do the beam shots, it creates this wonderful lantern effect that you can hold above your head or magnetically attach, because it does have a magnetic base just like the EDC05C, and you can connect somewhere and it just puts out a wonderful amount of light on just about any Lumintop product that I have that I've used, as well as several other flashlights. Invaluable piece. This pro tip, EDC pro tip. So I'm glad they include that. Also, just real quick, basics from the box before we get into the light. You do get a lanyard, basic lanyard. You do get O-rings, and this is kind of cool. Also, this is something that has become a big kind of niche market that some people get into, some people don't. I don't know exactly what this does, but this is an extra gasket. I don't know if it glows in the dark, changes color, whatever the case may be. It may just be a gasket for the head. I haven't played around with it enough, but I don't see one in there as it were. So if this is anything like some of the other interesting items out there for like the Fireflies or the MSRs, those kinds of things, then that would be really cool. Got a couple of extra gaskets, which is always helpful, and a little ring for your lanyard. So, stick those back in there. Move that out, because this is useful. Alright. Now we get to the light. Alright, a couple of things. This is a warranty replacement for my EDC05C. So, as you can tell, they are. This is a little bit thicker, but that's because this runs on a 14500 and this runs on an 18650. But the difference is not that much. It will probably be slightly noticeable, but it's not that much of a difference. I will say that this body is quite a bit thicker to allow the electronics for the light switch to be factored in here and wired in, and so it's a little bit wider than it might need to be. But with that said, they did the opposite on this and really slimmed up the body so that you're not really, you don't have a ton of excess here from the 18650 battery. It's basically an aluminum tube all the way through until you get to the head. So while I do lose, the side light strip, which I'm gonna miss, and while I do lose the slimmer form factor, I will say that in comparison, we're now going from a single plus a light strip to a triple, and this puts out 500 out the front, this puts out 2800, which is amazing for something this small. I mean, basically, MSRs were doing this, before this came out, but I will say they have slimmed this down. I don't know what the heat dissipation is at this point because I haven't done anything with it. This is the initial unboxing, so we'll check that out for the beam shots. But in essence, what you're seeing here is a really well set up. It feels solid. The construction is solid. And I want to mention something else too, because this is where we get to the good stuff. So you buy the light, and a lot of lights out there that are mass-produced, non-custom. You're talking about the set of lights that are on the higher end, but are mass-produced. They generally don't include a battery at all, and in this case, they took it a step beyond. So I have to give it to Lumintop for this because they include a genuine Samsung 35E, and that's a high drain battery. I don't know the amperage off the top of my head, but it's a great battery all the way around. It has the right chemistry. It's not an ultra fire or any of the other junk that you're gonna find out there. So I was very impressed that when I saw this on Amazon and I was doing my research and it showed this battery, I didn't know if I was actually going to get this battery, and I did, and so I was very pleased about that. So again, I'm going to go ahead and take out the little stopper for the battery to protect the connection in transit, because this is a genuine quick unboxing here. I also will say I want you to take a look at this, because the quality on the board here is actually really well done. No crazy solder joints, no interesting issues that warrant attention. It's a good solid head. The build looks nice. You can see right here there's a divot there in the circular ring that surrounds the lens, and there's a similar divot right there on the other end, I'm assuming, to go ahead and unscrew that lens to be able to apply whatever gasket came within the kit, although that's going to require some sort of special tool. So with that being said, let's go ahead and hook this baby up and see what we get. One thing I will note, with the threads I noticed when I unscrewed the head earlier, they weren't greased. And I will say that a very thin layer of grease on threads pre-shipment, when it's all being put together, takes practically no time and extends the longevity of your gaskets by an immense amount. And so while I wish that, I will say I do wish that the threads on this were greased, so far build quality is excellent, outside of that one minor thing that would not take a lot of effort that I think would make a significant difference in the longevity of their product and the waterproofing of their product, etc. So when we screw this together, we should get two things. We should get a green rabbit. We should get a flash out the front. So let's see what happens. There we go. We got the flash. We got the green rabbit. The button here is actually a battery indicator, which is kind of great. It breaks it down in the manual, but basically green means your battery's good to go, and red means you need to go ahead and charge it. This does not have onboard charging like the EDC05C, and I have to say I like that. Okay, because getting the battery out of this model, and I believe from my understanding now that this is an older model and that things have changed, but that trying to remove this required me finding a dime and or a screwdriver, and a flathead screwdriver, and unscrewing this to get to the battery to then be able to charge the battery in my EFES Blue 6, and so it was inconvenient. So the onboard charging was nice in this particular situation, but I have a feeling that from being plugged in and plugged out so much that that is what caused this board to fail and come loose, is the repetitive nature of utilizing the onboard charging. So while I lose the onboard charging with the EDC18, you do gain a much easier access to the battery that doesn't require any special tools. You unscrew it, and you grab the battery, pop it in your charger, screw it back in, and you're good to go. And in the manual, they do recommend, if you had paused that startup guide, to unscrew it from the top to access the battery, rather than unscrewing it from the bottom, which is out of the ordinary, but after looking at it, I kind of understand where they're coming from. The top is fairly easy to access, and the bottom is definitely tight. I mean, it unscrews, but the bottom is tight. And of course, it's required for the bottom circular disc that is in this piece to make connection to the body, which makes connection to the copper ring on the driver that we were looking at a second ago, which then completes the connection to the battery. So it all has to be super tight, super clean to be able to get this to come about. So that is a quick unboxing. If I remember reading the manual correctly, when you first click it on, this is basically 120 lumens. Okay, nothing special. It's a very floody light, as you can obviously imagine. I mean, 2800 lumens with only 10 kcd is definitely a floodlight. So it's a very floody light. But what we're gonna do is, and just real quick to demonstrate, that is an invaluable tool. This puts out at 120 lumens as kind of its neutral startup zone. This puts out an immense amount of light, and if you were to have this like magnetically connected to your ceiling fan in a power outage, it would be more than enough to light up a typical size living room without increasing the lumen, and also by being able to maintain a longer battery life in doing that. So again, love the infuser. So that's by the way, some of them do this too, and I love it when they do. Glow in the dark diffuser, absolutely brilliant. I love that. I love that. I did not know that was part of the setup. But if I put this in my flashlight cabinet like this, right, where I can see this in the evening, and in pitch blackness, and I go and I grab it and I literally just turn it on and turn it off. Oh, excuse me for being too ignorant of the UI for a minute. But then I instantly get this glow-in-the-dark kind of feature if I'm not needing a ton of light, I will say. And then if also, a quick note on the UI here. It's a ramping UI. It's real, we'll go into this more in the beam shots video, but basically, you click it on, it's supposed to be default 120 lumens, and then if you press and hold, it's going to ramp up, and when it does that little flash, that brief flash, you're at your brightest. This is 2800. But then if you hold again, it's going to ramp down. And then that little flash in the middle was at its basically mid-level, mid-ground. And right now it's in moonlight. So I'm pointing this directly at the camera. I'm staring at it with my eyes. This is, I mean, maybe 2 to 5 lumen. I'm sure it says in the manual. I don't know off the top of my head. But it's enough to give you a very small amount of light to read a map in a car without disturbing the driver, or to get around your house if it's pitch black and you have 13 dogs like we do here at the bomb shelter, and you're trying not to cause the whole house to wake up. I will say I like their moonlight mode. If you watch my other videos, I have comments on moonlight mode for other lights, and I will say it's an invaluable setup. And one of the cool things about this UI, so it's memory UI, so when I click it back on, it goes right back into moonlight mode because it remembers the last point of the ramping that I was in, regardless of what it is. So if I turn it off and then I turn it back on, it remembers the level that you were at with the ramping. So I like that memory. That can be adjusted in the UI if you don't like it. Now, what I also like is from the off position, okay, to access moonlight mode, you press and hold. And what it does is it immediately puts you in moonlight mode, all right? And if you continue to hold, it starts ramping up. But if you wanted just a real fast way to jump into moonlight mode, you press and hold. Love that part of the UI. And then also, if you want instant access to turbo, you can double click and it instantly goes into turbo. That's for the full 2800 lumens. I don't know the run times on this. I can get that for you if I have enough people who actually watch this video and care. So, so that's the full power. So that's the basic unboxing. I have to say, I'm looking forward to testing this out. There will be an accompanying beam shot video for this light. Lumintop did not sponsor this. This was, again, a warranty exchange in which there was a lot of back and forth with Lumintop support and very, very kind people, available all the time, personable, really wanting to help out and make sure that they, you know, I mean, that they find a accommodable solution that doesn't break the bank, that everyone is happy with. Their customer support is really impressive from what I've experienced with this exchange. This also being the first Lumintop light that I've had that's failed after having at least half a dozen of them. So again, that's another factor, is I'm curious about the longevity of this. I'll have to do another update video once I've had it for a while and have put it through its paces. But again, there will be an accompanying beam shot video, and check that out. Also, if this was informative and it helped you out and you made it all the way to this point in the video, go ahead and hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it, and it always helps us out here at the Bomb Shelter. Otherwise, check out that beam shot video, which I'm sure will be a lot more interesting than hearing me talk about this light for 20 minutes. And I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks, and have a fantastic shine in the dark.